There, in this lesson, we're going to talk about an introduction to XML. XML, which stands for Extensible Markup Language, is a text-based format to store data. So it's a really nice, easy readable, human readable, easy transferable format so that we can transfer data between different programs. Data in XML uses tags, which is just like HTML, except that in XML we get to make up our own tag names. Common uses for XML include RSS feeds and AJAX applications. Um, the pros of XML is that it's got a standardized data format, making it readable by programming environments. It's customizable, allowing programmers to make meaningful data documents, and it's human readable. Anybody can do it if they can, make sense of what's happening. It's not like programming. You could teach almost anybody to alter an XML document. One of the downsides of XML is that, at least in the area in which we're utilizing it, is that it's going to be read only. We're not going to be able to, through one of our web applications, add information to an XML document. We will only be reading information from XML documents. So to get started, just like HTML has a doc type declaration, XML begins with an XML declaration. This is that. So you can see angle bracket question mark XML, and then version 1.0, and then question mark angle bracket. We're writing all our tags in lowercase. We're writing any attributes in lowercase, and we're writing attribute values in single quotes. The next thing then is the root element. So all XML documents have to have a root element. All HTML documents have a root element also. That root element is the HTML tag. In an XML document, the root element is going to describe what the type of information in the document is going to be. So it could be users, announcements, classes, appointments. Typically, our root element in an XML document is a plural noun. It's important to realize that all the data in an XML file then must be of the same type. I can't have two root elements. Once this courses thing ends, I can't put something else down here that's called users. That would have to be in a totally separate document. And root elements are written like any HTML tag, so I can do users. You can see over here, I've got courses or records or whatever you want them to be. So this is kind of the beginning of my XML document over here. It's got the XML declaration, and then it's got my root element, and then whatever goes inside, and that's what we'll be talking about next. Once we have our root element, we create an element for each object we want to have. So this tag is typically a singular version of the root element. So if I'm going to have my root element be courses, then I'm going to create a series of course objects. This one has two course objects. That object typically has parts. If I have a user, they might have a username, a password, and a level. If I have an award, it might have a department, a title, and a recipient. The most important thing is that every one of these objects, every course element in this instance, has the same elements inside of it. So this course element has title, time, days, and lang. This course element has title, time, days, and lang. This works really good with my computer science courses, but these four elements would not work great with, say, a math course or a phys ed course or an English course, because that lang tag doesn't mean anything to them. So I might be better off, instead of doing lang, writing description, or on those other versions on English or social studies or whatever, I could just leave the lang tag empty, but I have to have it if it's going to go into this listing. So once again, please make sure that we have the same elements inside each object. Another example is that if I have a game object, and I'm talking about Connect 4, which is a board game, I couldn't have a board element in one and an electronic tag in another. Instead, what I would do is I would have a type tag and give it the value of either board or electronic. Because once again, when I have an object here, all of the elements inside of that object have to be the same, in every single object in the entire XML document. Moving on from that, we can get a little more complex. So I can put elements inside of elements if I want. I can put objects inside of objects, right? So here I've gone with something different. I've gone with departments. And then I have a department here. And that department has a name. And then it has 2 awards, APCS award and the engineering award. And then here's another department that only has 1 award. See, the way that I got around this was that department object actually has a name element and an awards element, a name element and an awards element. So essentially what I'm doing now is I'm kind of making another list inside of the department. So the departments are a list. And then inside of the department, I'm going to have a list of awards. Well, inside of that awards, I can write as many award items as I want. So up here, I've got 2 award items, and down here, I have 1 award item. But note that they have the same thing in each: title, criteria, title, criteria, title, criteria. XML does allow attributes, though at the level that we're working and the application in which we're working, attributes aren't really a great option. So I could write an attribute like this: user level equals 3, but we're better off at this point in time to do user and then just make a level element that has a value of 3. So for now, I would stay away from the attributes, and I would go with the elements inside. One thing that you should do is make sure that your XML is valid. You can use an online validator. There's lots of different ones out there. I've got one here with a link to codebeautify.org, but if you just go search XML validator, one of the nice things you can do is when you're creating an object, you can make that object, you can validate that object, and then copy and paste it and just change the content in it. Which is an easy way to make sure that your page is valid. And then once you're done, just take that whole page and push it in. And that way you're not making the same mistake over and over and over again. But make sure you validate your XML each time. Okay, so the next piece of this then is data design, because we don't always get the XML handed to us. Sometimes we have this kind of big project and we've got to talk about what objects do I need, what variables do they have, what elements do they have, those kinds of things. We use the has test. So I'm making this class called person. A person has a name, an age, a gender, interests, and a bio. And so here you'll see this person is Bob Smith, 32, male, music, skiing, and his bio. Diana Cope, 28, female, kickboxing and brewing, and her bio. And so every person, again, is going to have those same things. But what I would say that a person has a name, a person has an age, a person has a gender, a person has interests, a person has a bio. All right. So that concept, that has a test, helps us decide where things belong when we have a lot of data. And sometimes we get so much data that we need to create different objects and sometimes even different XML documents to hold all that information. So here's an example. We're going to create a program that'll be used to create a presentation of awards, and we're going to list those awards by student. So the information we have is we need a student first name, last name, ID number, award name, department, and award description. When I look at that, it's very clear that we're going to have 2 objects. Those objects are student and award. A student has a first name, has a last name, has an ID. An award has a title, has a department, has a description. And so then, how do I tie these 2 things together? Well, what I do is I make my document, which is the student's root element, and in that is a student, first name, last name, ID, and then I give them a list of awards. And so you'll see inside of awards, there's award, title, department, description, award, title, department, description. So for a person that has 2 awards, it works out like this. For a person that has 1 award, we would just have 1 of these. If a person had no awards, the awards tag would still have to be here. It would just be empty. But every student has a first name tag, a last name tag, an ID tag, and an awards tag. Really important that you check out the website, get more information. There's links to more information. There's notes written there. Complete some of the practice problems for better understand XML. I would focus on questions 1 and 2 in level 1 and question 1 in level 2. There's a couple questions in there that talk about styling and CSS. You don't have to worry about any of that. Right now, it's just about formatting XML and then trying to figure out, given an application, what XML would I need, what objects would I would need, and how do I design that data. So before we go, though, I am going to show you just a quick look at a practice file. So this is an XML list of books. And so once again, you'll see the declaration up top, and then I have my root element books, and then I've got a book object. A book object has a genre, a title, an author, and a description. In this case, the author of this XML document decided to go with genre as an attribute. As I told you before, you're probably better off to make that genre its own element. So there would be a genre tag here that says fiction inside of it. But no matter what you see here, every one of these books is going to have a genre attribute, a title tag, an author tag, and a description tag. So this is a look at a full XML file. So I hope you've learned something. Make sure you do your practice, and we will see you next time.